911, what's your emergency?
Help! The hot new firefighter at my work is awakening something in me.
I like the sort of amazed but bashful tone there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I wanted something like he's fearful, but he also like enjoys the feeling. It's kind of like bubbling up in his belly a little bit. I just wanted to really channel just like Buck queer panic. You know,
of course, this could be the beginning of something beautiful for Buck.
Exactly. And
of course, it'll take you 5 seasons to get there. Welcome back to season 2 of the First Response. We're finally here. We finally finished season 1.
Shit's about to get real. This is the day we have been waiting for. We did season 1. Season 1 was great. We loved it. We had so much fun, but we're finally getting into 911 Prime.
911 Prime. 911
Jane,
2.0.
are you ready?
I am ready. My soul's ready. My body's ready.
Our darling babies have finally come home to roost. Your small child will be making his first appearance, and my mother will be gracing my screen for the first time this podcast.
Exactly. This is an exciting season because it sees the introduction of 2 characters who will really go on to be not only important characters, but like arguably fan favorites, both of them. So this feels like a very significant episode for that, if anything.
I want to give a quick bio of the first character. Highly anticipated. He's just a very important part of the show's ecosystem. Very influential on many of the calls. Latin King. He's gay. You guys know who I'm talking about. It's Josh Russo.
Josh Russo, who doesn't even get introduced in this
He's
episode.
not in this episode.
I knew you were going to do a bait and switch, and I was trying to imagine what character you could be talking about. Okay, yeah, for sure.
No, he's not here yet. But we do have Jane, your precious son, and my
son that I have a complicated relationship with.
and the love of my life, Edmundo Diaz. Jane, do you have any thoughts on Eddie? Have you ever shared
haven't thought about the guy that much. You know, much has been said of my supposed dislike for Eddie Diaz. I would like to set the record straight, so to speak, set the record gay. Eddie Diaz is... I made what I thought were some pretty mild, normal observations about him in my YouTube video where I said, although I like Eddie and I think a lot about him and his potential, I think the actual text of the show itself has kind of given him the short end of the stick. I think he's frequently not written with that much attention paid to him. I wish the show would be more consistent about his characterization. I wish they would kind of build things up better, explain things better. And as I got to in the end of my video, which some Eddie stans didn't even reach the end of my video, from what I understand, they would have seen that I believe that all of those problems could basically be rectified if they just made Eddie canonically gay. And I feel like that's not that controversial to say. If they make him gay, this will be like one of the characters of all time. If they don't make him gay, he's just like an insane psychopath.
Ruining women wherever he goes.
Yes, if he doesn't turn out to be gay, he will have ruined the lives of countless women in Los Angeles for no reason. And that is terrifying. And I made some comments about Ryan Guzman's acting, saying I didn't think he was the best actor. I would like to clarify that too. I think he can act, and like I said in the video, I think he's better at comedy. I think it's just sometimes the more serious, dramatic stuff he doesn't really work for me personally. It's just an opinion, and you're allowed to disagree with me. And honestly, I also believe in actors getting better over time. I've been enjoying his performance in season 8 so far. I just think there are emotional Eddie moments throughout the show that have not worked for me acting wise.
They're dead. They're all dead.
I saw a tweet about me the other day where somebody was like, she didn't like his acting in season 5, even though that was some of Ryan's best work. And I was like, okay, to you. To you.
Okay, to you.
But also, it's just like, it's my opinion. You know, you can't, like, you're allowed to disagree with me. You can't tell me my opinion's wrong. You can't just be like, objectively, some of his best work. Like, no, his best work in your opinion. Come on.
Well, no, I know for a fact you're right about a lot of people not even finishing the video, because I saw that especially, you remember the tweet that popped off about, that was basically like trashing you and your takes
on Twitter on both of my accounts.
On the First Risk Podcast account.
She's muted on the First Risk Podcast account.
So they made a tweet about like, oh yeah, Jane's opinions are so trash, I'm not even gonna finish this video, it's so
the tweet
bad.
the tweet was a picture of my video, and it said, defending Eddie Diaz isn't enough, I need a gun. And in the replies, they admitted that they had not even finished the video. And thankfully, several people in the replies were defending me, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But many of them were not, and were also saying they hadn't finished the video. So
someone posted a screenshot and with of that bit towards the end of the video where you say, we need to make Eddie gay, and they go, oh shit, I might actually finish it now.
And I'm like, so delete the tweet?
Right.
Can we not delete the tweet?
Deleting the tweet is not enough. Likes. I need a gun.
2,000 plus likes on a tweet of that. I know it's like a meme, but they're basically saying they want to shoot me with a gun. My life has been threatened.
Well, you could pull a James Somerton and be like, I have gotten multiple death threats about this. I've gotten
death threats. So about those death threats.
I just didn't want my video seen by people who want me dead.
The victim language is so funny. Okay, anyway, we're getting way off track. But basically, I'm not, like,
I'm sorry to bring James Somerton into it again.
Yeah, that was unnecessary. We're getting way off track. We haven't even gotten to the scene where Eddie is introduced yet. But I just wanted to say, like...
We haven't gotten to any of the scenes yet.
We haven't...
We haven't started the episode.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, I think I've said this before, reports of my hatred of Eddie Diaz have been greatly exaggerated, and I need everybody to know my relationship with him is just complex and beautiful and profound and interesting, and I wouldn't expect everybody to understand that, because some people are just a little too small-minded. And, you know, if you can't understand what Edmundo Diaz and I have, then that's a you problem.
Okay, so that's character number one that's introduced in this episode. The other one is Maddie, and we love Maddie.
The other one is Maddie. We love Maddie.
Can we all just say we love Maddie? We love Jennifer Love Hewitt. Mother has come home. T. Okay. And so the episode starts with a little montage of moments around LA. We're only
35 minutes into this recording session. Let's start talking about the first shot of the episode.
We spent the first 27 going on a tangent that'll be included in the bonus episode, probably.
That might be included in the bonus episode. We're such yappers.
We are yappers. Oh my god, this is bad. We need to stop going on tangents at the top of the... No, we were warming up. We were warming up. We open on a montage. Things in LA are not great. There is a power outage.
It's one of the hottest days of the year.
Yes, and as occasionally happens on very hot days, there was a short circuit, some wires got fried, and power went out to parts of the city. Right? We get shots of a tour bus, right? There's a tour bus going around the Hollywood Hills. There are people being hot in a restaurant. Right?
A restaurant full of pressure cookers. It looks like maybe they're making tamales or something.
Yeah. It's a literal pressure cooker in an episode called Under Pressure.
And
the
guess
song
what
Under
song
Pressure
is playing
not
right
playing.
Now? The song
not
playing
Under Pressure.
is Pressure by Billy Joel. As I said in my video, you'd think they would use Under Pressure for this episode called Under Pressure, but they can't do that because they already used that one in the pilot episode.
I don't know, they could have tied it back in. Maybe like every premiere plays Under Pressure.
Right.
But basically, so there's the restaurant, there's the tour bus, there's a wedding happening at a chapel. Chapel Roan, perhaps?
Well, there's a wedding happening where the groom seems to be getting cold feet. He's watching his bride walk down the aisle, and he doesn't look too happy about it. Then we also see these maintenance workers are about to do something with manhole covers, and we're getting a montage of all these different things, sort of like the Final Destination thing, where we're seeing like little things building up that might result in disaster.
The maintenance worker, by the way, one of them, he says this is a bad day to like start training. He's
he
a maintenance
says,
worker in training.
Well, specifically, the line is, "Think you picked the wrong week to be trained."
The wrong week.
I wrote in my notes, they need Vivica A. Fox to have a cameo on this show so bad because she would kill.
Please.
And I need her to just drop a wrong movie tagline in there. I guess I picked the wrong day to call 911.
But the tour guide, he's going around the Hollywood Hills, and there's these asshole douchebags in these convertibles, these Corvettes or whatever, that are stuck behind the car, trying to run them off the road. And this guy, obviously, he looks like he's overheating a little bit, and maybe his mind's not in the best spot. So he starts what I can only describe as drag racing with them.
They start kind of playing a game of chicken.
Streets of the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the bus is
they're in,
full
the
of tourists. The bus is full of tourists who are obviously getting a little worried about this. And he's like, to your right, you'll see some dickhead in a Porsche or whatever.
Yeah, you'll see a real LA asshole or whatever.
Yeah. And then it really cuts between all the scenes. So the husband flees the wedding, flees the chaperone.
He takes off in the just married car.
By the way, I don't know why they tie the cans to the back of the car. What's that about?
It must have some, Americana origin story. Maybe it's just to make noise so that people, attracting attention to the fact that it's a just married car.
That's probably what it is. It's probably for like the pageantry of it all. I don't know. I always thought cans, it was a little
gauche.
I'd say, yeah. And then as he runs away, and obviously she's very upset, in the restaurant, the pressure cookers fucking explode.
Yeah, just like shooting parts of pressure cooker onto various restaurant patrons and employees. And
the pot explodes, and then while the other maintenance workers are trying to do crowd control on the streets, the trainee starts poking around one of the manholes because it's getting a little Smokey Robinson, and he tampers with it. Fire erupts out of the manhole.
The manhole covers, like every manhole cover on the street, suddenly like pops open with immense pressure, dare I say.
Yeah.
And fire shoots out of them. It's like, isn't there a scene at the beginning of like Armageddon? I don't know. Or maybe I'm thinking of the movie Volcano. I'm thinking of one of the 90s disaster movies that includes some sequence where like manhole covers are going flying, I think.
I think that actually might have been Armageddon, yeah.
There's something similar to that in the opening when like New York is getting destroyed by meteor stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, that was totally Armageddon.
Okay, well, the manhole covers go flying, and we cut to like this pool party happening. Apparently the guy's
dude's arm got ripped the fuck off.
The guy's arm got ripped off, and so we see the manhole cover fly over, land in someone's pool as they're having a pool party, and then right after it, the severed bloody arm lands in the pool. This was great. That was like 1980s horror movie, like great moment.
It was awesome. And then the final moment of disaster, because we get the disaster with the wedding, with the restaurant, with the manhole, and finally, as one could predict, the game of chicken, not gay chicken, just regular chicken, that the tour guide is playing with those douchebags in the Corvettes or whatever, ends in what could have been tragedy when a truck comes down the oncoming lane and he has to swerve off of the hill and crashes into a rich person's house.
Crashes into a mansion. So the next thing we see, well, first of all, then the groom running away from the wedding in the car gets arrested by Athena. She pulls him over. She's gotten a report that he's in a stolen car. And the next thing we see is the 118 arriving at the crashed bus. The crashed bus that's crashed into a mansion. And it seems like no one's been killed. There are just some minor injuries, miraculously.
But one of the tourists asks, do you know if anyone famous lives here?
I mean, they're on an LA tour. If anything, that's like kind of assuming nobody dies in this incident. That's kind of like the coolest thing you could expect to happen on your LA tour bus tour, is that you crash the bus into like Tom Cruise's house.
Right. It's like George Clooney comes out like, what the fuck is going on?
You take pictures with your disposable camera. And it's a great day overall. But we kind of see the 118. That would make a good story. We see the 118 rolling up to like every disaster. So they get to the house. Athena arrests the guy. We see the 118 show up to the pool. Buck's like fishing the severed arm out of the pool.
Yeah, he gets it. He's like, I need some ice. He's so proud. He's like a dog with a stick.
I like the direction of like the extras in that scene too, because you see like women in bikinis like kind of flinching away from the severed arm that's being brought past them. But then, you know, we see the 118 putting out some fires in the manhole territory. And finally, you know, Bobby gets done with his work. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
No, we skipped a couple because I have to call attention to, first of all, the bride rolls up when her groom is getting arrested. And Athena arrests the bride, too, because she made a false police report about the car being stolen.
Yeah. Athena's like, okay, day to day, Athena is like, how many people can I arrest today?
She needs to keep her quota up. And then we also see a shot at the restaurant. Also, it seems like no one was killed, but a guy has a fork in his hand, and another guy, and this is insane, has like a bottle of like Tabasco hot sauce like jammed into his neck, fully open, and it's just like
I was trying to figure out what that was
into his wound.
Ooh, yeah, that's worse than salt in the wound.
He's like, it burns. She's like, yeah, I bet it does. And then yes, they're putting out fires at the manhole. I have no idea what's actually happening with them. Does this happen in sewers? They just fill with fire?
Athena rolls up, gets out of her car. She and Bobby start walking towards each other. She starts explaining what happened. She says it was something about like wiring generating all this fire or heat or something underneath the manhole covers. And, you know, eventually it was so much pressure that they just went boom. And then she and Bobby start making out.
Yeah. They start fucking. It was gross.
I was loving it. Oh my God. I was like, this is hot. This is sexy. This is an it couple. Like, I was so into it. We need this kind of energy back on 911.
Framed so well too, because they're like in like basically what like amounts to like a darkened alley. Basically, because they're between the two
by two fire trucks. It's so cute.
It's very cute, just like an on-the-job romance. It's very sweet. It's very sweet, and it's a great place to pick up with them from where we left off.
It's been a few months since the last season, and they're clearly carrying on a relationship, but apparently a secret one.
It's a little Sam Sadie's moment, a little bit, at the end of season 2.
Tell them that it's human nature. Sam Sadie's was cute.
They were so cute. Not as cute as Sam and Rory. Then we get the title card, and then we go to the firehouse, of course, and Bobby is glowing.
Bobby is glowing.
Bobby is absolutely radiant. He's just like flipping around his freshly got fucked hair. Like, he's like really sorry, that's too much. But he's chipper. He's in a really good mood. He's in possibly a better mood than we ever saw him last season.
Yeah. He's worked through some of his issues.
Do you think he's coming back from donating blood to the children with Rhesus disease?
That could be. Even though we will never hear mention of it again, it's possible. Let's just say Bobby got his groove back.
Yes, he did. He got his mojo. In the language of Austin Powers. You know, he syncs up with Hen and Chimney, and they're just like, it's talking about Bobby, you know, you look great, all that stuff. Buck comes in, and he's yapping about he just got a DXA scan, and he apparently lost another half pound.
No, he's talking about his body fat percentage.
Oh, right, you're right.
Which I wrote down here, potentially controversial. I said, is it bad that I low-key think that any man keeping track of his body fat percentage might have an eating disorder?
No, you're right about that. You're right.
I just feel like there's no healthy reason to be keeping track of something like that. So in this moment, I was like, Buck, baby, you might be thinking about it too much.
Did you ever see that tweet that was like one of those like, you know, health nut manosphere guys was like, you know, he posted a picture of like steak and eggs and avocado and rice and stuff, and he was like, if everyone ate like this, 90% of the world's problems would be solved. And someone quote tweeted and said, you eat like a dog on its birthday.
I did see that. Okay, the steaks never look cooked well either. Like when you see one of those manosphere guys post, there was another picture that went viral recently of somebody's disgusting steak dinner. It's like it looks like they boil their steaks, you know?
Yeah, they do look like they're like cooked well, in that they look like they're well done.
They're well
steaks,
done.
You know, Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that sounds
yeah.
fucking disgusting. Just some dry meat that you just, ugh.
Anyway, as we learn later in this episode, Buck has been learning some cooking tips from Bobby. So hopefully, if he's eating like a dog on its birthday, hopefully he's at least cooking his steak pretty well these days.
We saw him making bacon in that scene, so at least he's, letting himself have something fun.
Right, maybe he's, it's just the continued mention of the body fat percentages. I'm like, honestly, Buck, I think you need a healthier outlook about your body and your health.
But he's doing this for a reason. He's not doing it for no reason. He's doing it for, he's getting in, tip-top shape for the hot days, smoldering nights, men of the LAFD calendar.
Yes, and so the one where teens start talking about the hot firefighter calendar coming up.
Hey, he's at his goal weight, and he feels like he is a shoo-in to make it. It's a citywide organizational sort of like contest for charity.
I love as if this contest is picking its submissions based on who has the lowest body fat percentage, like on paper, instead of just like who has the best photos or whatever.
Like it's a bodybuilding contest. Like
yeah, like baby girl, you don't need to. They're not gonna like read your transcript of how skinny and hot you are. But anyway,
do you remember on Glee when they did the Men of McKinley calendar in like season 4?
Oh God, I don't remember that. I think I've only seen season 4 once through because I did not like it very much.
No, you're valid for that. It was the same episode where they did Love Song with Leah and Naya and Diana, and that was great. But like everything else in that episode was really bad. But they did like a Men of McKinley calendar, and Sam was like trying to whip everyone into shape, and it was like a whole. That's what this episode is reminding me of. It was almost like feeling like, okay, Ryan and Brad. I know Ryan didn't stay on as a writer for this season. But Brad did, I believe.
Brad is on this episode. I think it's his only episode.
Maybe some ideas are being cross-contaminated there. I don't know.
Wouldn't be the first time. But,
and it won't be the last, honestly.
Right. But the men,
once we get
men
that
of the 118
episode.
Are getting really into this, but Hen is pretty over it. She has a great rapid fire delivery line where she's like, you mean that sexist calendar that, perpetuates the stereotype that all firefighters are male? And Bobby and Buck and Chimney are having none of it. They're like, well, it's for charity and like we want to be hot.
They're like, leave it to the lesbian to suck all the fun out of men's bodies.
You can't even have hot firefighter calendars anymore because of woke. But I was thinking in this moment, major untapped market, lesbian hot firefighter calendars. Can
oh my God,
you imagine? The lesbians would go crazy for that. Like we would, so many lesbians would lose their shit if they could buy a calendar of hot lesbian firefighters. Like they're just leaving money on the table by not doing that.
You're honestly right. And maybe you should be the change you want to see in the world. Maybe there's some organizing to be done. I don't know. Maybe
I should become
get some
a fire
sponsors involved. No, I mean, like maybe reach out to some fire stations and be like, hey, do you guys have any lesbians?
Do you guys have any lesbians?
But Chimney specifically wants to be in the calendar because, he wants to be the new Asian sex symbol. We'll get more on that later. And Buck is being very patronizing to both Bobby and Chimney. He says,
I think it's great that you guys are going to try. He doesn't think they have a shot.
Because of course he doesn't. Because, he's just a little shit weasel. And we love him for it. But then we get the greatest character introduction ever.
Possibly ever, yeah.
Possibly ever.
Is it Chimney that goes, now yes. That's a hot man. What does he say?
That's a hot firefighter or something like that. That's a good looking guy or something. And
Hen says, where is the lie? And I like girls.
We get the needle drop of what a man. And then as Buck turns around, his eyes come to rest on the abs of a very shirtless Edmundo Diaz.
Slow motion of a beautiful ripped man putting his shirt on, and Buck slow zoom on Buck as the song "What a Man" plays. Buck, his face changes. He goes, "Who's that?"
Yeah.
I was writing in my notes. Like, I am just still not over just how gay this scene is, and I don't think I ever will be. It's like It's like, what on earth were they thinking? Levels of gay, level of homoeroticism. It's like unbelievable.
It's genuinely the gayest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't trust anyone who tries to insist that this is a very, a sort of like just a platonic male rivalry scenario.
And like, that's what makes it all the weirder that it seemingly wasn't intentional. It just makes you think like, man, I guess sometimes you put things on the page not realizing how they'll come off in execution. That's all I can imagine.
It has the homoerotic earnestness of like the Top Gun franchise. You know, it's like, and the fact that I think Ryan said this in an interview. He was only supposed to be on for like 1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah, I've heard that.
He was supposed to be like a bit part, which I do think explains a lot about Eddie. It
explains why his character is a little thin, for sure.
Yeah, you know, and right here, it's interesting that like we get this introduction to him. You know, Bobby, it basically gives him the rundown on his past in the military. He personally convinced Eddie to join the 118 specifically on account of his combat experience. He was a medic. You know, he likes to be called 8-Pack. And his entire character, when we're introduced to Eddie, is that he's hot and he was in the army. Those are his 2 traits.
And something I pointed out in my video is I also think they made the mistake, presumably, like you said, because he maybe wasn't intended to be a long-term character initially. I think they made the mistake of making his only 2 traits be that he's hot and he's perfect, you know?
Yeah.
Because he had to be like the object of Buck's jealousy. And so they made this guy who's like, he's hot, he's nice, he's well-adjusted, he's a great dad, which we don't hear yet in this episode, but we will. He's just kind of, you know, when Buck is acting so immature throughout the whole episode, Eddie kind of has no problem with it. He just handles it like a champ. No hang-ups, which could have been interesting if they really had the plan all along to be like, oh, he's going to have this really polished exterior but have a lot of fucked up stuff going on underneath. But it kind of seems like they didn't have that as their intention. Like, I think they kind of try and do that later on, but they're kind of missing the foundation there. So I think one of the problems here is that they just didn't really remember to give him any relatable flaws, and that's kind of why some of his flaws that they kind of add in later on feel a little contrived to me.
And you can make an argument that, like, the reason, you know, we perceive him like that is because we're seeing Eddie this entire episode from Buck's point of view.
True, and to Buck, he is perfect.
And to Buck, he is perfect, which this is just another coin in the hat of the only way to make Eddie work is to make him gay, because it's the only
one,
given everything else that's going to come out about Eddie and the way that their relationship is going to evolve, especially once Christopher comes into the mix. It's literally the only logical conclusion to all of the events that they've set up with these characters. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine it going anywhere else. I really can't. And I can't imagine it going anywhere else and being satisfying. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And I was just, like I said, with this scene in particular, but really the whole episode, I was just floored by like, oh, it really feels like they're intentionally setting up a slow burn romance. Like at every turn, they make the most romantic decision they could have. You know, later in the episode where Buck says, we might end up real close. Whatever. It's just like, oh my God, what were they thinking?
People often forget this too, but like Buck and Eddie were like, you know, locking horns for the first half of this episode, which technically makes them an enemies to lovers arc.
Oh yeah, a very brief enemies to friends to lovers.
Yeah. And there's, I mean, like just the way that it does logically follow from that. It's not locking horns in, I don't know, the way that, like, you know, other characters in the show would, like, lock horns at first. Do you remember when Buck was out and he saw that Lena had taken his cubby? Like, imagine if that started and then he and Lena went on some daring rescues together and earned each other's respect and then became best friends, and he started co-parenting her child.
And also when he first saw Lena, they were playing, like, I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton.
Yeah, or like I don't know, I Kissed a Girl or something. What's a song about a beautiful woman? I don't listen to straight
I don't
songs
think
that
I
much.
Kissed a Girl is the perfect example.
No, it's not.
But I get what you're saying.
Lady,
it's very...
no, like they were playing Lady in Red or something.
It's as many people have pointed out about the Buck and Eddie friendship. If you even for 1 second imagine Eddie as a female character, they would have been together by like episode 5 of season 2.
Yeah, and I need to tell Tim that to his face.
Yeah.
I need to tell Tim that to his face. It's not that it's different with men, because men aren't that different, especially in fiction. It's like you're writing ostensibly a love story between these two guys. You know what I mean? Just let them fuck.
And on that note, we then cut to a car garage, a mechanic, where a guy is like on the phone with a customer who's being really rude. They're sort of getting heated. He hangs up the phone, walks over to like the air pump, the compressor, trips and falls and impales himself on the compressor.
The compressor,
like,
yeah,
the
the
thing
nozzle
goes right
of the
into his
compressor.
leg. Starts immediately pumping him full of compressed air, leading to a 911 call.
Maybe I just don't know how compressors work, but would that just start pumping, or did he have to like turn it on at the same time?
It seemed like it was already running before he fell on it, I think.
Was it? Okay, never mind. Okay.
We're not exactly car people.
We're not car people. This is just a moment that felt very Hollywood to me, which is fine. I'm just like, never mind. I don't know. I'm not going to nitpick this. That's stupid. But like, it just felt like a very Hollywood moment. Like you just fall on. It's like when a car crashes and then it suddenly explodes. You know what I mean?
I can believe the compressor already being on and pumping air into him. I kind of question, if this really happened, do you think it would really blow the person up like a balloon, or would it be more localized to the area it's injecting the air into? Because I feel like your body isn't like all connected like a hollow balloon, right? It's like you would be injecting that into like muscle, and that would, I don't know. Again, not to nitpick what is clearly a larger than life call, but I always feel like that maybe feels a little like, why would his face start swelling up if they are pumping air into his leg? Whatever. I don't know.
I don't know. I just wanted to see him explode, honestly. Like, I just wanted to see like someone prick him and he pops.
For sure. But that happens. The 911 call happens. We then cut to the 118 in the truck, and Buck is kind of needling Eddie because he has a psychosexual obsession with him. And
Eddie, for his part, is being very short with his answers. Eddie seems like, you know, he's like trying to find his footing and all that. He's funny in this scene because he doesn't really have a personality yet.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, and so he's coming off as just a very dry character so far.
Yeah, Buck says, first of all, is your full name Eduardo? Which, cute little Social Network reference from Buck.
Oh my God. Jane!
Sorry.
It's okay.
And he's like, does anyone ever call you Diaz? And he's like, not if they want me to respond. Hen decides to kind of fuck with Buck more and ask Eddie if he's heard of the hot firefighter calendar, and being like, you should totally submit photos to the hot firefighter calendar. Buck is such a child in this episode. It's just so fun. Like, he's so like fourth grader on the playground right here. He's like, how dare you tell Eddie about the hot firefighter contest that I wanted to win?
They roll up to the call, and like Buck's already feeling very threatened by Eddie, because obviously he's like, you know, in his eyes, he's a perfect golden god, you know, with, you know, the perfect body and a beautiful face and baby doll eyes who can do no wrong. And it's pissing him off. And then Eddie starts, you know, they start doing EMT work on the guy, like, you know, taking care of him. Bobby has Buck put in a little stint in his chest to let out the air. And as Buck goes to do it, Eddie starts correcting him.
Yeah,
because,
which, you know what? I would have been pissed off too.
Yeah.
If my coworker
He's
was
like,
doing that.
First day on the job, and he's correcting me, and he's taking over my role on this call.
Right.
And the worst part is that he was correct to do so because it works.
Exactly.
And the guy deflates very quickly.
Yeah. Eddie, he like cites
starts
his military experience. He's like, I worked on tons of guys with punctured lungs in the or with collapsed lungs in the army. Like, I know that this part of the rib cage is actually where you should put the needle. And it's one of those, I feel like it is relatable on Buck's part, because like I feel like we have all been in those situations where like even if the person correcting you turns out to be right, that almost makes it worse. It's like more embarrassing. So
especially because we know Buck wanted to be a Marine too. You know what I mean? He wanted to. A Navy SEAL. He wanted to be a Navy SEAL.
So maybe
but
he's
like,
feeling
I was a bartender.
Maybe he's feeling a little bit of like, this is like who I always wanted to be.
Then they diffuse the situation. They deflate the situation, as it were, and the guy starts farting. It's just farting up a storm.
They say like the air has to go somewhere, which also, again, I wonder if this is a true to life type of thing, but who knows?
I don't know. I would assume, I guess so. When you have gas trapped in your body, you either burp or fart to get it out. It has to go out one end.
I guess. But that's like gas in your intestines, right? It's not just like in your muscles or whatever. Yeah. I don't know enough about it.
Has to go somewhere. Like
I guess. Well, I also wanted to mention, like, when Eddie is doing that, when Eddie has just done that little correction, the significant looks Buck is giving him are kind of insane. Like, he will not stop homoerotically staring at Eddie throughout this episode. Just giving him these intense gazes.
And a lot of this was in the performance too. Like, I'm sure that he was directed to do this, but like, I mean,
no, I think Oliver Stark is just he makes a lot of those intense choices, and I think he himself has said, right, that like if they didn't make Buck bi, he would have just started putting those things into his performance. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's also like, but also to be fair, like in a situation like this, when you're intensely staring at the guy you're jealous of, there's kind of no distinguishing that from intensely staring at the guy you're sexually attracted to. So I feel like
because these feelings are like married, you know what I mean? These feelings are like they're right next to each other, especially when you're dealing with someone of the same sex, because you don't really get. I don't know. I feel like if a man envies a woman for her physical beauty, it's probably because he has some self-discovery to do. I feel like when you're in like a same-sex scenario like this specifically, there becomes like a unique obstacle, which is like the person you want to fuck is also the person that you intensely envy because they embody certain things that you see yourself as lacking. You know what I mean?
Like funny that Buck is sort of going through this experience that many queer people go through at a very young age, where you're like have these like intense friendships that are like full of these sort of complex, like part rivalry, part affection, part desire, part envy. And then you like look back at those friendships later and you're like, oh, I was just like psychosexually obsessed with that person. But it's funny that Buck is experiencing this not at like age 11, but at like age 26. And everybody goes at their own pace.
Baby boy. Everyone goes at their own pace, everyone's journey is unique. Yeah. I feel like Buddie is really beginning here.
Buddy Begins.
I think we should really call this episode Buddy Begins. Let's be honest.
We have no choice. But yeah, we're harping on this way too long. We need to. We had to see this coming. I mean, the first episode with Buck and Eddie. We're gonna talk about it. To be fair, our listeners probably want this. Like, I can't imagine we have that many people listening who don't care about Buddy at all. So for any of you out there listening who don't care, I'm sorry, but this is kind of what you signed up for.
I'm sorry. We made it very clear at the top of the show that we are Buddy shippers. Like, what else can we say?
We did.
What else can we say?
But Buck gets home. We see him arriving home to the place he is living, which is Abby's house.
Abby's apartment.
It's sad. He's still living at Abby's house, and he sees. He walks in kind of dejected. I think he's had a rough day of homoerotic rivalry with his new hot guy at work. And
he's coming home to this sad, empty apartment, but
he sees a bottle of white wine on the counter. White wine moment. And he also sees like women's clothing on the bed. So his assumption is, Abby must have come back for me. My love has returned from the war. The shower's running. So like the normal guy that he is, he goes, let me just strip right now. Let me just take off my clothes and go into the shower to surprise her.
This is the day he's been waiting for.
Opens the shower. It's his sister.
Surprise! It's Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Who is your sister? It's I always forget that this is how they introduce her. It's so awkward.
It's so fucking funny.
They're
like,
both horrified.
And like immediately right off the bat, just the way they interact with each other, like you can like instantly tell, okay, this is brother sister. This is like like insane.
They're careful to give her a line where she's like, I wanted to see my little brother or whatever.
I love that
And he says,
saw
"You did."
herself into she saw a lot of him. She saw herself into his house.
Yeah.
Either drank his wine or brought her own wine and
bottle.
drank it from his glass.
Like unpacked
changed,
on the bed.
Yeah,
and
then
got in
took
the
a shower. Honestly, that is some real sibling shit. Like,
that is. It's
that
like
really is.
You have that level of comfort. But you know, he mercifully leaves the bathroom. We cut to after she's done with her shower. He's like making her some food. They're both having a glass of white wine moment. And, you know, she's questioning like, wow, you're making me actual food. He's like, my boss is like Guy Fieri. But anyway, we get
Guy Fieri.
People Bobby has been compared to. People Bobby has been compared to Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, Gary Cooper, and Guy Fieri.
I need Bobby. I need a video of Peter Krause. Someone book a cameo or something of Peter Krause saying, that's a passport to Flavortown.
I need him to have I need Bobby to have his own cooking show, a la Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
I need him to do like the intro on like the bad green screen, like looking out for the next Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
He would kill at that, especially now that he has some experience in the entertainment industry, being the consultant on Hot Shots. I think Bobby's arc, like when he leaves the show, it should be because he got a contract at the Food Network.
Yes, he would be so perfect on there. Him and Martha Stewart, or like like an Ina Garten show, you know? I do want to call attention to the fact that I love the way that this episode, I know, you know, white wine moment. I love that this episode frames the open bottle of white wine as like Abby's calling card.
Yes, oh my god. The ghost of Abby is her empty glass of white wine.
He like passes by a wine shop. He's like, I see her everywhere I go.
Everything reminds me of her. No, that's actually so true. That's so funny. Well, we get some backstory for Maddie and Buck's relationship. We hear from Buck that he hasn't heard from Maddie in 3 years. She says, first of all, she says she got in the apartment building by basically just asking the building manager or whatever which one was Buck's. And
he says that you know, she's his sister, and also she has boobs, which helped. So
I probably wouldn't say that to my brother, but I don't know what kind of relationship they have.
And apparently she tracked him down because every year he sends her Christmas cards.
She went to the address where the Christmas cards were coming from, presumably the frat house.
Oh yeah, and they were like, he went here. No, they said it in a douchey frat boy way, like, let's go. Buckley mentioned that dude shacked up with his girl.
His hot older girlfriend.
I don't know how frat boys.
He's not around to leave his crumbs on the floor anymore or listen to Jordan Peterson podcasts.
Yeah, they haven't spoken 3 years. Buck asks about her husband, a man named Doug. And she, you know, presumably, you know, she left him. But it sounds more like she escaped him. We don't learn too much about their relationship in this scene.
We get some hints. She says, Mom was right. And she says she's laying low. She doesn't want anyone to know where she is. So it sounds, like this is sort of an escaping him situation.
And then they move to the living room, and Buck tells her all about his life. She asks about, like, oh, where'd you get this place? It's so clean in here. Big. And like, she's like, and he's like, so this is Abby's apartment. and he shows her a picture of Abby. He's like, she was in Ireland. She's now in Italy. She's apparently looking to have an eat, pray, love experience.
Maddie says, I'm going to be real with you. She's fucking other guys.
Yeah.
She says she's banging other guys, and Buck is like really scandalized by this, but obviously it's probably true. He even says, and this is sort of another point against the people who get so mad at Abby for like abandoning Buck and leading him on, is Buck says Abby told me to like do whatever while she was gone, like implying that she told me to see other people while she was gone. But Buck's like, I don't want to see other people, I want to be with her. And it's like, okay, so you can't really, like, yes, whatever messy arrangement they had, messy arrangement they had that allowed Buck to stay in her apartment for so long is partially on Abby. But in terms of like leading him on, like, again, it seems like she's setting pretty clear boundaries or being clear about where she's at and what she expects. And it seems like Buck is, I think if anyone's leading on Buck, it's Buck, you know?
Oh, absolutely. He's his own worst enemy here. I mean, like, I think the only thing that maybe could have like broken him out of that spell was just a really clear breakdown of, we are breaking
reality
up.
check.
We are not going to be here. We're not going to be together again. I am leaving. I'm not coming back. I am going to Europe to find myself, and I'm probably going to fall in love, and I'm probably going to sleep with other guys, because by God, I have seen 2 dicks in the last 5 years. This summer, I want to see 50 dicks.
Tommy Kennard.
And this summer, I want to see 50 dicks, you know? Like, also, by the way, a bit of cross-contamination with another Ryan Murphy property, because, you know, Eat, Pray, Love, inspired by the book, the film was directed by Ryan Murphy. The cinematic universe
in the IMDb
expands
trivia for this episode.
And so, you know, just the cinematic universe, there's some cross-pollination happening. This show, we know, loves to mention other Ryan Murphy properties, which means that next Halloween episode, we're getting a direct mention of American Horror Story. I hope that they mention specifically season 2 Asylum.
Well,
that would be great.
But yeah, Maddie tries to give Buck a bit of a reality check. I don't think he really internalizes it. He asks her how long she's staying. She says probably not long. But Buck says, even if you are passing through, you know, it's really good to see you. It was getting lonely around here, which, you know, sets up that Buck started this episode feeling lonely. And it's like he needed new people in his life to sort of replace Abby. You have Maddie coming in to kind of fill that, like, kind of caring, you know, person who can look out for Buck, person who will ultimately replace Abby as dispatcher. But then it's like, for the romantic side of this equation, it's like he needs someone else. And that person has been introduced, and it's a man, and his name is Eddie Diaz. So that's just interesting.
That is interesting. And I'm glad that you brought that up. And I don't doubt that we will continue to bring it up as the episode goes on. But for now, we get a heterosexual couple. Now, granted, heterosexual people are heterosexual listeners. I'm sure we have some. You are welcome here. This is a safe space for people of all identities. So we're going to talk about Athena, and we're going to do it for you. Okay.
And we're gonna be respectful and try to not speak for your community, but you know,
your culture is not a costume, you know.
So yeah, let's tread carefully here, talking about heterosexuality, of course. But yes, Bobby and Athena are watching a TV show. They appear to be watching some sort of like Real Housewives kind of show.
Yeah, it's
like
called Claws.
It's called Claws. And it apparently has Niecy Nash in it, because Athena has a line at the end where she says Niecy Nash should be on Mount Rushmore, which couldn't agree more. That seems like another Ryan Murphy shout out, because of course he's collaborated with Niecy Nash many times, right?
Yeah. And so this, it seems like a Housewives of like Beverly Hills moment with like Kim Richards and Lisa Rinna and all these like sort of like small time TV and film actresses turned socialites. Are like having wonderful fights that will be immortalized on the internet forever.
Well, we also get what seems like a tribute to either Angela Bassett's live tweeting of 911, which she used to do in the early seasons, and or the fan contingency of people who live tweet 911, because she talks about, she's like saying something about the show. She says, "Ooh, I gotta tweet that." And then Bobby's like, "Can you please just watch the show? That's your 4th tweet this episode." Which I wrote down, okay, that felt personal.
Yeah. Was Tommy revealing that he and Abby used to be together this episode? Like, wow, she's really getting into that Twitter storm.
Okay, that's not what I meant, but feels personal to us as live tweeters.
Yes.
But then Athena says, like, me and my online friends always live tweet Claws. which she has like Claus fandom friends apparently, like on Twitter, which she's so 911 Twitter.
Do you think she's on Claus Tumblr? Do you think there's like a Tumblr crowd for Claus?
I don't know if she's on the Tumblr, but she's definitely on the Twitter.
She probably watches the compilations on YouTube with her friends, like when they like get together and like drink and stuff like that. Like she and Hen probably like have like Claus nights.
Claus nights.
And you know, Bobby's like, you've never seen someone so engaged while watching something. She goes like, you never you know, seen a movie in Crenshaw or something like that. She's from she
mentions Crenshaw, and Bobby's like, well, why don't we ever go out to the movies together? And Athena is like, you know, we're out in the world all day doing our jobs, and I kind of like the idea of just keeping our relationship just for us for a little while longer, like away from the world.
She doesn't want pressure, you know. She doesn't want pressure. She doesn't want to feel like she's under pressure. Right?
Under pressure.
And so it's clear that they're kind of on two different pages about where they want this relationship to exist in their lives. And that bubbles up later as the episode goes on, but we will get to that. For now, we get a homoerotic gym scene that we've all that we deserve, that we needed as a community, starring our two favorite little gay boys, and also Chimney Han.
Chimney kind of looking on, you know, sneakily from the back.
Buck is like doing these like tricep raises or whatever.
Yeah, Buck is lifting weights.
We've never done this exercise, by the way. Like, I go to the gym with my roommate and everything. We've never done this specific. When we do triceps, we do like more like the pull downs. He seems to like have like a barbell on the ground, and I've actually seen guys doing this. I don't know. I've just never done it. I don't know why.
I don't know a damn thing about weightlifting, and I certainly don't know a thing about the gym. My main form of exercise is I go for long walks and listen to playlists and try and stave off the horrors.
Period.
So, whatever. He's lifting weights is all I know.
Running from the horrors is good cardio.
yeah. Running from the ennui, you know. And Eddie comes in the gym, and he starts, you know, using the punching bag. He's like kind of showing off. It looks like he's like punching, and then he's doing like a little spin kick action, like, ooh, he's so hot, he's so cool, whatever. Buck's clearly getting all hot and bothered about it, as he does. And he, you know, starts peacocking on purpose. He gets like heavier weights, he puts them on the barbells, and then he like pulls out the fucking selfie stick. Starts performatively taking selfie stick selfies. Eddie, the fucking demon that he is, like, he is so dastardly in this scene. Eddie is like, the light's bad in here or something. Like, it's not
he's
the
like,
right
he's like,
light in
you're
here.
in the wrong light, brother, or something like that.
Oh, and, it's so brutal.
It's
Buck's
so brutal.
Like, some of us don't need lighting to look good. I wrote down in my notes, John M. Chu directing Wicked.
Oh my God.
Some of us don't need lighting to look good.
Clock that T. But Chimney like asks him like genuinely, like very sincerely, about like what he meant about the lighting and everything, and he mentioned all the lighting in here is like it's cool and it's flat, so it sort of makes you look it flattens you down, versus what you really want is warm side lighting, right? And
he's so gay in this episode.
He's so gay in this episode.
What do you mean?
He's
you
so
know
gay.
Your angles,
what do you mean
know your lighting, and you have a photo shoot of you holding kittens and stuff, like just on your phone, ready to go.
Did you say in this episode?
Okay, well, in general, but like especially in this one, like I saw somebody on Twitter recently saying that in this episode, it feels like this is some sort of alternate universe Eddie that already knows he's gay. Because he seems so like self-assured in the face.
He's holding a kitten.
Bucks.
So he shows.
You don't
Chimney
have to be gay to hold a kitten, to be clear.
Well, it's debatable. But he shows Chimney the photos that he's
Fellas,
submitting
is it gay
for.
to hold a cat? Real men only hold wolves.
I'm ignoring the obvious joke that one could make, and I'm just going to say Chimney. He shows Chimney the pictures he submitted for the Hot Firefighter calendar. And it's him with a kitten. It's him
like holding an axe or something.
Shirtless, holding an axe, like showing off his abs. And then he says, "My 12-year-old niece took these photos."
Yeah,
I'm like, wait.
Buck is like, that's not fair to use pictures by a professional photographer. And he says, she's 12, she's my niece. Did you also have questions about the timeline here?
I had so many questions. First of all, did he go back to Texas to do this? Where are his siblings in Los Angeles?
So I did a little math here, Ryan, that I'd like to share.
Okay,
so
let's hear it.
This episode, I would say almost certainly this has to be retconned out because there is literally no way this makes any sense. So Eddie is canonically 26 or 27 in this episode. I think the actor is a little older, but we learn later that Eddie is supposedly the same age as Buck canonically. So he would have been 26 or 27 here. We learn later that he has 2 younger sisters. And I've always thought they must be kind of significantly younger because he tells this anecdote in season 5 about trying to drive his mom to the hospital when she went into labor with one of his sisters, which, like, he must have been young enough to not realize that he couldn't actually drive his mom to the hospital, but old enough to, like, get in the car and start the car and get it going. So he must have been, like, I don't know, like 7 or 8, right? And if his niece is 12 years old, then one of his younger sisters would have had to have a baby when Eddie was 14 to 15 years old. So I don't really want to think about the logistics of that.
No.
But basically, it is practically impossible for Eddie to have a niece or nephew of that age at this point in the show. So I'm just going to say, I think this is a retcon. I don't think Eddie has any nieces or nephews, actually. Maybe. You know how some people call people like their cousin or their aunt, even if they're not literally related to them? Maybe it's like a family friend's kid.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like thinking maybe he's Uncle Eddie to like one of his like his buddies, and like he's like this
could
is
be like an army buddy.
This is like my little niece. Oh, she took these photos. But doesn't that make it even weirder that he had a 12-year-old girl he's not blood related to take shirtless, sexy photos of him holding an axe for a Men of the LAFD calendar submission?
I guess when you put it like that, it is a little odd.
So we can just take that plot point and we'll just say, you know what? Maybe Bobby did it. Bobby did it. That was his terms for coming to the 118. Bobby had to take these photos.
And he's just lying about.
And he's just lying
because he's embarrassed.
Yeah, because he's like, yeah, I didn't want preferential treatment from our new boss.
That would be crazy. But no, I guess we could also
sex.
ascribe it.
Maybe I've heard "Bye Bobby" be thrown around before. So
okay, wow, that would be a lot. We can also put this all down to Eddie supposedly only being supposed to be around for a couple episodes. Just randomly made up that he had a niece that turned out not to work out with the rest of the show. Yeah,
that's the truest explanation. But I emotionally like mine more.
It's interesting for sure. I like the implication that Eddie was like casting couched into the 118. It's kind of fucked up, actually.
Oh my god.
Bobby would never.
Someone write that fic though. I want to read that.
Listen, Bobby was in a loving relationship with a woman.
Yeah, on the DL. On the DL, he's literally a DL guy.
You think he's taking out his frustrations about his emotionally distant relationship with him?
Listen, I've heard that before, and that's all I'm gonna say on that. Like,
okay.
But
let's move
Buck,
on.
But Buck is being such a dick.
Buck is being a little brat, and he starts saying the wildest thing, which is he's like, you're not supposed to just come in here and act like you've been here for years. You've got to respect your elders, he says to the actor who's like 4 years older than him.
Chimney rightfully says, you're not his elder, Buck. You know, especially canonically learning like that they're the same age.
But then to be fair, Eddie fires back with the most lethal, nasty thing, which is he says, well, I know you're going through a lot right now, and then Buck's like, what do you mean? And he says, I know your girlfriend recently broke up with you, which is like, why would you say that?
This is canon gay Eddie. This is canon gay Eddie. He knows how to cut someone down like only a gay boy does.
That was insane. That was like, Eddie, you're crazy for that.
He is, and he's such just a cocky little bastard. Like, seriously.
Yeah, he says it like he means 100% well, which we know he doesn't.
He's just like, it's just perfect. It's just the perfect little demonic introduction of this guy. And
he's evil.
He's evil. He's an evil man. and they really do match each other's freak. I'm sorry. Like,
Too much.
like we say Eddie's evil, but let's be honest, like Buck's evil too.
No, they're both being evil in this scene.
Exactly. They're just like two
Evil
little
to each
goblins. Two little goblins just swiping at each other.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's perfect. They were immediately freak for freak. Yeah. So that happens. They basically leave it on Buck being like, she didn't break up with me. Whatever. They're still having a hard time. Oh, and at the end of this scene, we see that Bobby was watching this interaction, and I wrote in my notes, a Fujo was born. Because you can see Bobby, based on what happens later in the episode, he's already scheming, like, how can I make these two bond? How can I make them go enemies to lovers?
He's literally just like us.
So
that's
right
why we love
from
him.
there, that's why we love him. We get a 911 call with a guy saying it went off, and they're like, what went off? And he's like, my grenade launcher. We cut to the guy's house, the 118 arriving. This guy, he appears to be like a militia nut, is what they call him.
Yeah, he's like a World War II dad, like to the extreme. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of these guys who's not in the military, but is like obsessed with the military. And he was like cleaning a grenade launcher or something. Classic thing to do. Accidentally set it off. It has launched what he calls a practice round into his leg. And they don't think it's live, but they take him in the ambulance. Buck and Eddie are in the back together. They're still beefing, and Eddie looks at the leg and he realizes, like, oh, the practice rounds have like a certain color thing on them,
like a blue color, a blue cap.
Yeah, this one is yellow,
has, like,
which is for live rounds.
He's like, pull the fucking car over. Like, seriously,
pull over the ambulance. There's a live grenade in this man's leg, which, as I've pointed out before, so similar to, or wait, no, I just said that. I haven't pointed it out before publicly. I said this in a video on my Patreon that this is one of the many things that feels like Grey's. Yeah.
Yeah. The episode with Kyle Chandler, and they have to call in the bomb squad because the guy gets the fucking tank shell stuck in his gut. And they get the code black. The code black. That's my favorite fucking episode of that show.
That's a classic. Christina Ricci has to stand there with her hand inside of a guy because he fired a bazooka into himself.
Stupid.
So anyway,
the wife is just screaming. Karev just starts screaming back at her. Oh, I love that episode.
I forgot about that part. But yeah, very similar to Grey's.
I will say the way that this guy, when they get to his house, is like just spouting off information. It really like read like the writer's hyperfixation made it into the show, because a lot of this information was so unnecessary, and like none of the characters respond to it. Like they're just like,
I could see it being a Brad Falchuk thing.
I have all this knowledge about this, like this very specific niche Vietnam era grenade launcher, and I have to get it all on the page, otherwise everyone I love will die, you know. Like it's like very very much that core. Ever since
you said that thing about Brad Falchuk being like very heterosexual, I haven't been able to stop thinking about that whenever he's credited as a writer, and given that, I feel like it could be his hyperfixation here. But who could say?
I think that would probably track. So, Brad, if you want to disprove us, come on the podcast and we'll talk about it.
Exactly.
But Eddie uses his army knowledge, to exposit all this mumbo jumbo.
Right. They they're kind of brainstorming outside of the ambulance for a minute. Buck, Eddie, Bobby, and somebody from the bomb squad. And, the bomb squad guy is like, we're going to have to get in the military. Somebody from Camp Pendleton's coming down. Eddie's like, he doesn't have that much time. I'm military. I'll do it. I don't like how many times Eddie brings up his military thing. I just hate the military. I don't hate every individual who's in the military. But I do hate the institution, and I hate it when movies and TV shows have to be all like, the military's so cool, and this guy's so cool because he comes from the military. Anyway, not to get
I am feeling a little raw about this too, because I love Alex Garland, yet somehow he's directing that new horrible looking Iraq movie with that war vet, and it just
looks a little propaganda-ish, I can't lie. But yeah, so he's whatever, he keeps bringing it up.
I shared your frustrations is what I mean to say.
I appreciate it. He's like, I can do this because he says a crazy thing where he's like, well, nobody I ever worked with was like ever stupid enough to shoot themselves with a grenade launcher, but I'm familiar with like the protocols or whatever. And it's like, what do you mean there are like, are there protocols for this? But yeah, he and Buck get back in the ambulance with like their Kevlar vests or whatever. This is where the line happened. You know, Bobby comes up to him. He's like, you know, you don't have to do this. And Buck says, hey, you wanted us to bond, right? We might end up real close.
Real close.
Which is
but
like,
the day Buddy was born.
Not trying to do a slow burn romance right now.
Yeah. That's literally the most fucking like romantic like setup line, like seeds planted that I've ever heard in my entire life.
Were we not supposed to take this as romantic foreshadowing? Yeah. But they get in the ambulance again. They're like very, very carefully, you know, like sweat on their brow, trying to get this bomb taken out of the guy. It's very intense. It's very intimate. They're like touching each other's hands. Yeah,
they're touching each other's hands, and like Eddie just looks like mind-blowingly beautiful in this scene.
He does.
Like
this whole episode.
He really does. Like he's just, I mean, like you hit the nail on the head when you said in your video that he has like pretty girl syndrome,
or he has pretty boy disease.
Pretty boy disease, and it's terminal. It really is. Like I literally wrote down in my notes, he's so pretty.
He's very beautiful.
Especially in like the low lighting of this scene, like in the ambulance, like it's very intense. They're breathing heavy, you know. And I'm gonna be honest. The way that this scene plays out, with how intense they are, they're like groaning too, like as they take it out. Eddie, his voice is like he's trying not to twist the grenade, and it's like
a rather erotic, I'm sorry, like removing a grenade from a guy's leg scene.
It is. It's very erotic to the point of like I mean I can't say exactly what I'm thinking, but it really felt like a sex scene. It really felt like a psychosexual sex scene between these two characters.
You know, yeah. Subtext is a hell of a drug. I appreciate your perspective on that, and I don't disagree, but I also don't want to get any more specific than that.
Yeah. That's where we're going to leave it. But
they managed to get the grenade out very painstakingly.
Yes, they do.
And, you know, they get out of the ambulance, and Buck and Eddie have kind of, through having this near-death experience together, they've sort of bonded. And Eddie says to him, you know, you're great under pressure, man. And I'm obsessed with the way Buck has been acting like a jerk, petulant child for the entire episode. But because of who Buck is, literally the second Eddie pays him a compliment, he becomes like all bashful, like adorable, ducking his head, batting his eyes, like me. He's like Debbie Ryan in Radio Rebel. Like he becomes,
oh my god,
he becomes like, stop.
Yeah.
And I think that's so funny, and it's so in line with Buck. Like all he craves is like affection and praise, right? Like he just wants
to be told he's a good boy.
By a beautiful man. And
exactly.
I think I love that about him and about Oliver Stark's performance, like the bashfulness he gets in this scene. And then, of course, we have the famous you can have my back any day scene or exchange.
And he goes, yeah, or, you know, you could have mine.
You could have mine. So bashfully again.
And that's been written into many a fic, and to all of the buddy fic writers out there, I just want to take a moment out of this episode to say thank you for your years and years of dedicated service. We see you, we love you. Thank you for all of the wonderful wonderful fics out there. This line is for you guys.
Well, we get, you know, he and Bobby and Eddie are all debriefing, and, you know, Buck's like, I wasn't worried at all. This guy really knows what he's doing. And then the ambulance explodes.
Fucking explodes.
This was, in terms of Eddie's characterization, I feel like this is the best moment we get, because it's the only moment that hints at like, okay, maybe he's kind of faking it till he's making it, you know, like maybe he puts on a brave face, but actually he's kind of winging it, or actually he's kind of a reckless guy. Like that could have been something interesting, but I feel like we don't really see that come back for Eddie in any way. Like this idea that he's sort of faking it, or that he's actually not as competent as he lets on, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's interesting in passing, but it's sort of an interesting thing wasted, in my opinion.
I did like the little moment where the ambulance explodes and Buck and Bobby are both like recoiled, and they're just like, what the fuck? And then Eddie's like, so who's hungry, or like, should we go get food or something like that? And it's like, oh no, okay, so I'm kind of buying the militariness that he's been around explosions, so this doesn't really faze him too much.
I guess.
So
I read that as more just like him being like trying to pass it off.
Also, no, that's totally fair, honestly. I actually like that interpretation more, that he's like was like low-key kind of technically knows a lot of the procedures, but he's still very rough around the edges, and he's trying to play it off real cool.
Yeah,
because like Buck's face in that moment is really funny too. He's like,
it's sort of like betrayal almost. He's like, you made me think I was safe in there. Or that you really knew what you were doing.
The entire ambulance explodes, like not just like a small burst from like us. It's like the entire thing just like
that thing
it
is
goes
ruined.
up in flames. Like it's like
it's
gonna be like an old jalopy,
destroyed.
like seriously, in like a junkyard. And then from there we're back to the firehouse, and Chim is showing Hen his photos, and they all suck.
I didn't think they were that bad.
They weren't good.
Okay.
But he was like, it was that moment of like, you're trying to be someone you're not because you see someone else do something successfully. So he's really trying to emulate Eddie's photos to the point where like in one, he's shirtless and holding a dog.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Hen is very unenthusiastic about the photos, in part because she's like, this isn't really my area. And also I've made it clear I don't really like the calendar. But also because I think she's really trying to be gentle with, her critiques of the photos.
And I think she feels the way you feel, which is, she's like, this doesn't really seem like you. It doesn't seem that real. She has a line about like, well, I'm not going to be taking off my shirt for this calendar, which again, I was like, please, lesbian firefighter calendar. It would kill. It would be so good. But, Chimney kind of expands more about the thing he touched on earlier about, growing up, like I really didn't see anybody who looked like me in any like cool roles on TV or in movies or whatever. Asian guys were always just like the nerd or like the tech wizard, or he says some funny line about like the guy in the aisle selling laundry detergent or something. You get exactly what he's getting at. And, he says we also brushed over a funny line earlier when he's talking to Eddie about photos where he says, I've been told I photograph like an Asian Fabio.
Oh my God.
That's a very Ryan Murphy line. I feel like kind of a Glee-esque
Oh my God.
line.
Very Glee-esque.
But yeah, he's really gets into a deeper thing about representation. And I think Hen really commiserates with that, but she still, she doesn't really believe in the calendar. And it also seems like she just doesn't fully know how to relate to like what he's feeling about, I guess, wanting to portray this like hot, sexy firefighter kind of archetype. And I've said before, I think often when this show goes into like social commentary territory, I feel like they're very on the nose about it, which I think is just a symptom of like network TV at large. Like I said, I've seen it a lot on like Grey's Anatomy when they deal with social issues. They just tend to be on the nose, I think, because they're reaching a more general audience than like a streaming show would. They kind of know they're maybe talking to people who maybe don't think about these issues very much. But I don't think it being on the nose is like bad. It's like it doesn't negate the message or anything. So I appreciate that they brought this up because it's like a real thing. And I think we'll start to see that as a theme a lot in this season, like with some of the Hen Begins episode, Chimney Begins, like they really start to explore that more as a theme in this season, which I think is cool because I think it's kind of one of the things this show has going for it. But they end that conversation with Chimney kind of disheartened, like feeling like whatever, like it was a stupid idea anyway. And he walks away.
And you see like a moment of like contemplation on Hen's face, as he walks off, and she clearly feels bad about how the interaction went and making her friend feel bad and stuff like that. And it's, so, and that will, of course, come back at the end of the episode. But we go from there to Athena rolls up to Bobby's place with some Thai food, some takeout. And she's in her casual love that top that she's wearing, by the way.
Yeah, gorgeous. But Bobby is all dolled up.
He's all dolled up. He's like, I want to go
suit.
out to a nice little restaurant and treat you like a lady. You know what I mean?
He says we're going out for Korean barbecue, which sounds great.
Korean barbecue. I love Korean barbecue, first of all. I like, there's this one place in Union Square. It was my first time going to Korean barbecue, and like my dad took me there, and it was so much fun. Like, cause you get like the stuff and then you get to work the grill yourself. And, I love Korean barbecue. So, like I saw like Athena in this scene. I'm like, well, I mean, girl, if you're not
missing out.
going, like, I'll go.
Let Bobby take me.
Bobby take me, and so I'll appreciate it.
Exactly. But Athena is very. I really liked this scene because I think it begins something I really like about their relationship dynamic, which is that Athena kind of has all these like emotional hang-ups that she seems to not even really be self-aware about. Like she seems to kind of think of them as just like, well, that's just the way things are. Like that's just the way the world works. Or like the way I behave is always correct. Whereas, it's clear if you kind of watch her in these interactions, she actually does have some like some hang-ups to work out, right? And I think Bobby, like from the very beginning, is always able to so easily see right through it. And so, in this scene, she's being very sort of flippant about, she's like, well, of course I can't go out with you. Like, I'm not ready for that. Or like, we're whatever. I just got divorced and there's all this social stigma. And she's like, even in the blocking, it's so clear. She's like already sitting down, getting the food onto plates, like for herself. She's like not willing to even sort of discuss the issue of like, should we go out or should we stay in? And Bobby does that very Bobby thing where he's just like, no, you're not being normal right now. Like, there's something going on here. And he gets right through to the heart of the matter, and they start arguing about it. We really get to the heart of it, which is that she feels ashamed because she's kind of been brought up to think that that a divorced woman, that there's something to be ashamed of in that she's like failed.
It's almost like, she becomes like a disgraced woman. I think she uses the word tramp. At some point, maybe, in this scene, she thinks, going out with another man after getting divorced makes her a tramp and all that stuff. And it's like her own sort of baggage is coming out, and she hasn't really done some sort of investigating with this. And the thing is, I don't think she thinks this about other women. I think she really thinks this about herself because of how she's been raised and stuff like that. And I think this is kind of what makes Bobby a really necessary foil for Athena's character, is that he will push back and say, I see right through this, what's actually going on, and sort of push her to actually talk about what's really happening, because this isn't working for him. He wants to have an actual partner, and I think she wants that too. She's just, she's afraid and she's embarrassed, and get more into it later with your favorite character comes back. But for now, it's they sort of leave it on this sort of like bitter note where he asks her to leave because she's not willing to really meet him in the middle at all. She is controlling the speed at which their relationship is moving without even a discussion. And Bobby's getting very frustrated. And
I think she also said some kind of hurtful things. She said something about like, well, haven't you been like ashamed of your past for all this time and been hiding it? And, that obviously gets to him because it's a very sore subject, but it's also kind of like, it is kind of a false equivalency. He's like, well, he's like, I did do a thing that was really, had a lot of actual guilt associated with it. And you're just saying you're ashamed of me, like, because we're dating. And that makes me feel bad because I'm just like a normal, nice guy.
It's like saying the shame that you feel for like being responsible for the deaths of
148 people.
Including your wife and children.
Including your family is equivalent to the shame I feel just from dating you, which is an insanely hurtful thing to say.
Imagine someone that you're, really into and you've been seeing for months says that to you. I'd ask them to leave too.
Imagine they say basically like the shame I feel in being with you is the same as if I had caused 9/11.
Yeah. And on that plane were May and Harry and Michael.
I'd be a little offended. I can't lie.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to say great prop acting from Angela Bassett in this scene because she is working that Thai food. Like she does not put it down. She keeps doing new things with it. Like so much blocking, so much business. I thought that was so fun that she was clearly she was like making choices with the Thai food.
Do you think she was hungry when she filmed this?
It's possible. I think more likely it's one of those actor things, I feel like, where you're like, I'm going to keep my hands busy and make this look natural by doing this. But also you could say it's like she's like maybe as a character she's made the character choice to be like, well, because Athena's like not comfortable or not willing to actually, she's going to focus on messing with the food instead of, you know,
she's
really
getting
looking
herself
Bobby in
into the headspace, by focusing on what her hands are doing and everything and all this food in front of her and just like futzing around with it and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's really strong.
I was just noticing that.
There was one thing that took me out of the scene. And I'm sorry, it was something with Krause again. It wasn't his fault at all. This was a technical issue. I was getting some strong echoing on his microphone in this scene.
Really? I guess I didn't notice that.
I was getting some strong echoing on his microphone in this scene. And I think it's just because of the location that they filmed it in, maybe, or maybe because the boom was too far away or something. I don't know. But yeah, like I don't know. There was like one or two lines in particular where I heard like an echoing effect on it, and it definitely didn't sound intentional. So it's just like a little sloppy little network TV moment. I caught you guys.
Slap a de-reverb on that thing, Mr. Sound
What's going
Editor.
on? What's going on, guys? Granted, I can't say anything about that because I have noticed that I occasionally get some strong echoing on my microphone. I might have it now. I don't know.
To be fair, we're not a professionally produced TV show.
That's true.
We do our best, but you know.
We certainly do our best, but we are at the moment amateurs.
Yeah. Well, then we cut to one of my favorite calls on the show.
Remember Team 10?
Hi, Shay's Army. What's up, YouTube? No, this is so Jake Paul inspired. First, we cut to two YouTubers and their friend that they hate. And first of all, Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy is playing in the background. These two guys are, you know, totally like 2018 YouTubers. They're like, what's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be encasing our friend's head in cement in a microwave. And before anybody comments it, because I actually have an idea for like a new thing to do on this show, because we frequently get comments from people telling us that, oh, this call in the episode was actually based on a real life incident. And the show does this frequently. So my idea is to like, I'm going to try and research some of these calls to figure out what the source of them potentially was. I did research the grenade launcher thing before we started recording to see if there was anything that was based on. I couldn't find anything specifically with a grenade launcher. I did find a case of a Russian guy in like 2017 who died after accidentally blowing up his groin with a grenade that he was posing with in pictures to impress his friends. So I would recommend not doing that to anyone out there.
Those are always the Russian guys.
I don't know. Most of the stories that came up were like Russian or Ukrainian. Maybe they have more access to grenades than we do. I don't know.
Maybe. But... I mean, there is. I mean, listen. I'm not going to say anything. I am ignorant on many aspects of Russian and Ukrainian culture, for that matter. I will say, whenever you see a video of two guys just hanging out with bears, it's always Russians. You know,
it's true. They're a hardcore culture, I think is fair to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, Noah, my condolences to this guy who shot his dick off with a grenade in 2017.
Poor guy.
But I couldn't find any specifically about grenade launchers, whatever. So I don't know that one was inspired by anything. Maybe it was inspired by the Grey's Anatomy episode. Who's to say? But anyway, this one I was already aware of. This call is literally inspired very closely by a real life event in December of 2017.
What?
British. Yeah. I knew about this already because people had commented this on my video when I brought up this call. This really happened to a YouTuber in 2017. He was a British 22-year-old named Jay Swingler, who runs the YouTube channel TGF Bro. He did this very thing in Wolverhampton, the West Midlands, England. The only difference really is that he did not subject his friend to this. He actually did it on himself, which is why I feel like this call must have also been inspired by like the Jake Paul thing, because the whole thing of like bullying
we're initiating
your friends
him
for
into
clout.
our crew and bullying them
that feels more like, and the fact that they're in this giant mansion, that feels more like a Team 10 thing. In real life, this 22-year-old, he was doing some sort of Christmas vlog, like a Vlogmas kind of thing, except it was called like Extreme. It was like, apparently they were doing like extreme stunts for the holiday season or whatever, which is crazy. But he did this. They mixed up some some like, not like cement. It was like the kind of cement you use to like fill holes in the wall, like spackle almost.
Oh yeah, like spackle. Okay.
But it's kind of like, it must have been like rubber cement. I don't know if it was rubber cement. Whatever. It hardened to be like cement, and they mixed it up. They put his head, very similarly to the episode, they put a plastic bag and a plastic tube in like a hole in a bag, which is obviously not an adequate like breathing apparatus to be in this situation. What happened was, I watched the video. It's like a 10-minute YouTube video, and it was posted by the YouTuber.
They posted it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
The title is like, I cemented my head in a microwave, like in parentheses, I almost died or something. It's like story time gone wrong.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he did that. He put his head in the microwave. They like used a blow dryer to make it, the cement harden faster. The video is really funny. At one point his friend is like, I'm gonna have to pop down to Asda's to get a blow dryer to make it dry faster, whatever. The guy goes to Asda, which is like, it's like the Walmart of Britain. He like goes to Asda to go buy a blow dryer while his friend is still in the cement.
But did he leave him alone?
I think there was one other guy there, but yeah.
Okay.
That was my first thought too. Oh my God, just the guy explaining what he's gonna do is so funny, because he's also got like this like West Midlands accent, which I'm about to probably butcher, but there's this really funny line in the video where he's just like, no, that's not, wait. Let me start over.
You got a little Hermione with it.
Yeah, let me, whatever. But he's like, so the process for this is, I'm just gonna put my head in the microwave. I'm just gonna put it in there. And it's like, yeah, that wasn't the part I was questioning. Yeah, he did this. He stands up once the microwave is on his head, and he's like, he suddenly can't breathe. It's like the sort of hardness of the cement is now like cutting off the tube.
So, are we back in 911?
No, this is in the real.
This is still in the video.
This is still the video.
Okay.
He stands up and that happens. He's like, in the video, he's like narrating from now about what was happening. And he's saying like, I was trying to tell my friends, like, I'm dying, I'm about to die. But because I'm like a crazy YouTuber who exaggerates all the time, I don't think they knew I was being serious, which isn't that like the most poetic, like, you know, poetic irony, like so tragic, whatever. Like he cried.
The boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, he cried YouTube too many times. But whatever. Eventually they end up having to call for an ambulance, call the West Midlands Fire Service, and apparently it took 5 firefighters an hour, and it cost £650, which compared to US fire and ambulance services, honestly not terrible at all.
Wait, do they charge?
Well, so here's the deal. Apparently that was the cost of the rescue, but I was like reading about this on Sky News, apparently because the guy's life was in danger, he didn't have to pay. Like, that's how the fire services work or something. You only have to pay if it's like a non-essential. Does
that work like that in the US as well? We have to pay for fire services if it's non-essential?
I have no idea. But I mean,
I've never once heard of someone paying for the fire department.
Well, it certainly wouldn't be like that for like an ambulance, right? Yeah, we probably don't have to like pay the fire department directly, but like you do have to pay for like an ambulance. I don't think he even had to pay for like the ambulance services because they have the NHS and stuff. But anyway, apparently somehow they know that there was a cost of £650, and a lot of people were calling on the YouTuber to pay that anyway because he kind of,
because it was a stupid thing that he did.
Yeah, this was entirely his own fault. I don't know for sure if he ended up paying or not. But anyway, apparently, according to Sky News, the West Midlands Fire Service said it was, quote, seriously unimpressed with the stunt. But that's about all we know.
Well, you don't say, huh?
Yeah, they weren't thrilled that they had to use their precious time and resources to get this guy's head out of a microwave.
I can't believe I never heard about this. 2017, I was definitely on a very different part of YouTube than the Jake Paul type of
And also, I had
scene.
Never heard of this YouTube channel. They have like 6 million subscribers, but they might be like a British... Like, maybe we would only know about them if we were British.
Yeah, I'm sure he's like the British, like, Rice Gum or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
But, like, that's so funny that it directly inspired that beat for beat up until the point where the guy stands up, because the 118 gets there and they're trying to get it free, and they get the screwdrivers out and all that stuff, and the guy stands up because like his the saliva is like getting like
he's aspirating.
It's like, he's aspirating, and he freaks out and he falls into the pool.
No, this is where they started taking some artistic license, and it's like the great kind of artistic license where it makes the story more exciting. Because they're setting this in LA, they're at a giant mansion, and therefore the guys are doing this right next to a swimming pool for some reason. And so of course
we get a buddy pool rescue. Buddy pool rescue.
No, I loved this. I love that they have to, the guy falls in the pool, and of course, because his head is encased in cement, his head sinks to the bottom of the pool. Buck and Eddie, this is like one of those tests they make you do in like lifeguard training, where you have to like rescue a brick from the deep end or whatever. Buck and Eddie have to dive in and pull this giant, heavy microwave head man out of the pool. They get him out. He's like drowning, of course, and they have to start chiseling and sledgehammering in, which Buck is like hardcore sledgehammering this guy, and I couldn't help but think, like, would this not like kill the guy?
Yeah, wouldn't it get like even like the impact of the sledgehammer.
Shock.
Yeah, I feel like that would just like make his like brain explode or something. And like the best friend, the Jake Paul, is like, they're like crying like, please don't let him die. He's my best friend since kindergarten.
Which like, you're like, oh, so you're like a bad person.
Yeah, like a bad person. Imagine putting your best friend through that just so he can join your hype house, you know?
Yeah, that was bad.
It gets worse. What was I gonna say? By the way, no, it gets worse because the boy is saved. They do get him free. Somehow his face is intact from all that sledgehammering. Yeah. And they respirate him and he wakes up. And then the Jake Paul guy, what does he do? Of course, turns it into content.
Yes. He gets back on the camera. He's like, check this out, guys. He's fine, whatever. You know, Bobby's like, are you recording this? And he's like, yeah, say hi to Shay's army. And Bobby's not having it today after his tough fight with his GF. And he goes, hi, Shay's army. And then he grabs the phone, kicks it into the pool, and goes, bye, Shay's army.
That's how that call ends. That's how it wraps up. Obviously, I'm sure the guy got taken to the hospital and, you know, whatnot, just to make sure his brain was fine from all that sledgehammering and oxygen deprivation. But then we cut to Athena at home making waffles for dinner.
Yeah, and this is how Michael can tell that something is wrong. I guess it's so weird for her to be making waffles for dinner.
Sounds really good right now, actually. I'm kind of hungry, so I might get waffles after this. Michael is at the house. I'm sure they're having a little co-parenting day. Basically, they sort of repeat all of the talking points they went over at Bobby's in a less heated environment. Michael is giving outside perspective, and Athena realized, you know, they talk about the fact that Athena, you know, what she's really afraid of is getting hurt again, because of how deeply the divorce hurt her and how losing their marriage and all that hurt her, and she's still not really over it, and so she's holding back with Bobby because the thing that she's really scared of is just, you know, being in this constant cycle of falling in love and getting hurt.
Michael gives pretty good advice, I think, and really gets her to understand what her problem really is. And also, I wrote down, he has this line where he says, fear trapped me in the closet for my entire life.
Oh my God. Michael was trapped.
Michael is trapped.
Michael was trapped.
That is a genius callback to the episode called Trapped.
Episode 9, Trapped. Someone play Trapped by Bruce Springsteen. It plays softly in the distance. Is that going to happen? Now, every time someone says Trapped on this show, we're just going to think about season 1, episode 9, Trapped.
Unfortunately, yes.
And Athena is, of course, feeling very trapped by her fear of getting hurt again. And so she rationalizes it to herself as, you know, maybe it's safer to be alone, you know? But because that is how it feels like when you are in that space, when you're trapped like that. It does feel emotionally safer to be alone because then at least there's some security in that you know what's going to happen. But the cold hard reality of that is that, you know, you're still going to get hurt. You're just going to be hurting in a different way, and it's going to be a bit more of that sort of dull sort of ache of loneliness, you know? I think that, like, you know, there's safety in numbers.
Yeah, and it's like, it's better to have loved and lost than never loved at all, which is kind of what Michael gets at. He's like, if you and Bobby break up, you'll get over it. You'll be okay. But if you should allow yourself, if he makes you happy, you should allow yourself to have that while you can, because you deserve it. So she seems to kind of resolve to maybe give this another shot.
Yeah, which is good. And it ends on a very sort of, I guess, hopeful, note in that sense. And then, we're back at the fire station afterwards, and
Buck and Eddie have not only moved past their differences, but now they're like already attached at the hip.
Yeah, it's like insane. Like
Eddie's playing
it's like
pinball.
the minute
Buck
he gets
like
over his feeling of
6 inches away from
inadequacy, the minute he gets over his feelings of inadequacy, he's like just like they're besties right off the bat. It's like they really were destined to be together.
They are in love already.
They're in love. They're just two peas.
Buck is going through like various new nicknames they could have for Eddie. I have to say, like earlier too, when he was talking about like, we can't just call you Eddie, like I'm Buck, that's Chimney Hen, we can't just call you Eddie. I was thinking like, I wrote a really corny thing in my notes, which was like, he doesn't get why they can't just call him Eddie, but he doesn't know that Eddie is gonna become like his favorite name in the world. Sorry, like the fan
That's
fiction
so
writer
Tumblr.
popped out.
That's so Tumblr.
I know.
Oh my
I
god.
apologize. But anyway, so he's still trying to think of a nickname.
He wants to go with GI.
He wants to go with GI.
Like,
Hen's sounds a little too much like gastrointestinal, which Eddie agrees with. Chimney, but then Bobby walks in, interrupting this wonderful exchange. Bobby walks in and he's like, the winner of the calendar contest has been announced. Buck and Eddie, again, already besties, already joined at the hip. Buck's like, hey, no matter who won, we'll be best friends. And they fist bump.
And Bobby's like, well, that's good to hear, Buck, because you didn't win.
And then Buck's like, okay, oh well, we'll go GI. and
Eddie didn't
Bobby's
win either.
Eddie didn't win either. And then they're like, who, you, Cap? And he says, no, not me. And it turns out Chimney.
Buck really did not believe in Chimney.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
He really didn't believe in him at all.
If I wouldn't have been surprised if, like, after Bobby confirmed that it wasn't him, if he was like, wait, Hen? Like,
did you enter?
Buck just had no faith in Chimney being able to win this contest. But Chimney is also very surprised that he won because, as we'll find out in a minute, Chimney didn't submit his photos at all. So Chimney's, shocked, but happy. And then Athena arrives.
Yes.
She walks up to Bobby, she apologizes, and she kisses him on the mouth right in front of everybody, revealing their relationship.
And Hen collects her bet money.
They've been betting. It's very like Tumblr fan fiction-y. I have to say this kind of thing kind of cringes me out just because I associate it so strongly with Tumblr fan fiction. Like it feels, the whole thing of like, oh, everybody in the workplace has been placing bets on when you two get together. Like, if anybody doesn't know, that is like a tried and true, a tale as old as time, Tumblr like headcanon kind of trope. And I guess at this point I can't take it seriously. I see that kind of thing and I think, oh, that's Tumblr fan fiction. And it's not that I'm a Tumblrina and I love fan fiction, so I can't even say that that's like, I don't mean to use that in a derogatory way. It's just that it's so trite to me in fan works now that if I see it unironically in media, I'll be like, oh, that's embarrassing. I feel similarly the way in Teen Wolf when we find out that Jackson is gay at the end of season 6.
And Lydia's like, I thought you'd never figure it out. And it's like, that also is like a Tumblr fan fiction trope of like, oh, the girl bestie knew it all along. It's like, that's actually not cool for you to be like speculating on before he was ready. It just, one of those things that I think that trope worked a little bit better in this show when, well, obviously we'll get to it in a few years' time. But when, Buck and Tommy come in and, Buck has his little inadvertent coming out moment and, Hen has her... Because that works better because Hen's like his queer elder. Do you know what I mean?
It's
in that
true,
sense?
but I'm going to be honest, that moment also cringed me out. I wish that wasn't in the show. And it also feels confusing in a way for Hen to have already clocked that he was bi, because I feel like if she had done that, she should have been like, so when's he going to date Eddie? Because that would have been the clockable thing.
Well, once that finally happens, Hen's gonna win even more bet money.
It's true.
Because apparently it's
whatever.
all seeing Hen. It's all seeing Hen. Maybe it's just
Which
Hen.
is
Maybe
classic
Hen just knows everything.
She is typically an omniscient character. And, whatever. Not to get ahead of ourselves. I find that kind of thing a little bit cringe. But it's just me. But whatever. She collects her bet money, and Bobby's like, how did you know? And she's like, well, you guys started to be happy at the same time, which is cute. And she's like,
that is cute. That's genuinely really cute.
Yeah. And then what else does she say?
I forget, but I was just focusing on just how sweet it was that she's besties with Athena, and also Bobby's her boss, so of course she would notice that they're both getting really happy around the same time, and I was just like, oh, that's so sweet. She's
oh yeah,
just,
she says something
person.
about she says I'm just mad that I didn't set you guys up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this something I thought was funny here is when Bobby and Athena kiss and the whole house goes kind of crazy. Why is Eddie looking surprised? Because he doesn't fucking know these people. He doesn't, for all he know. If I were him, new worker at this station, I'd just be like, oh, I guess my boss has a girlfriend.
Does she collect money from Eddie as well?
I rewound. No. I
does.
rewound to make sure, because I thought, oh, that would really be kind of a plot hole if she did. But no, Eddie just kind of stands there while she collects from other people. So to be fair,
okay, got you.
They at least had that continuity in mind, that it wouldn't really make sense for him to be in on this bet on his third day working there.
But then it's very sweet. Everyone's very supportive. It's nice, and then they sort of just get back to work, that sort of thing. No. Athena is gonna stay for dinner because Bobby's cooking, and so they're just gonna set the table.
Then Chimney approaches Hen,
pulls
and
her
he's
aside, yep.
So how did you figure this? Because I didn't submit my information to the contest after all. And she says, I submitted a photo for you, but I didn't submit any of your dumb bodybuilder photos. I submitted a picture, at this school bus crash we responded to last year. An AP photographer took a picture of you carrying a little girl across the road, and I submitted that because that's what a real hero looks like, and that's what you're good at, and that's what matters about this job. And very sweet. And I guess that attracted the attention of the calendar more than Buck and Eddie's thirst traps.
It was kind of a culminating moment for his season 1 arc, because he really just wanted to feel like a hero, you know what I mean, that whole time. And so now he's finally getting validated that, oh no, he is a hero, And so I love that sort of full circle moment for Jim here at the top of the season, because it kind of opens him up to new storylines, you know what I mean, while completing his initial one in a more complete way than it was at the end of last season, when he just
for sure
had one of Buck's air quote Buck's strays over for game day,
smiled at a woman, and that was supposed to be the culmination of his storyline. So then we cut back to Maddie back at Buck's house, and she gets
the real storyline is about to begin.
Yes, she gets a call from who she thinks is her boss, on caller ID. She takes the call. She's like, Lori? And Doug's like, no, it's her husband, Doug, whom she left. And her husband, Doug, is very menacingly like, no, it's not your boss. And I know that because I just came to your workplace, and you don't work here anymore. You quit. And, he's threatening her. He's like, I'm going to track you down. She's very, very upset, afraid, whatever. Doug says something like, when I find you, you better hope that I'm in a better mood than I am now. I don't know if it's implied that he killed the boss or something, but he's this is clearly a dangerous guy.
It's very clear, exactly what's going on with their relationship. You know what I mean? And exactly how abusive he is, And you see, in Jennifer's performance, and you're seeing every single emotion that she's feeling, on her face. At
the end of that call, she's so scared, but also so frustrated and angry that he's still, ruling her life. Kind of like that she just throws her phone at the wall. And then Buck gets home a little while after, and she's on the couch. She's packed up. So he's like, oh, you're moving on so soon already? And she's like, Doug called, whatever. And she explains a little more about the relationship here, I think, where she says she just implies, she's like, all the things that that mom and dad hated about him and that you could pick up on even as a teenager. Like, those things just got worse when we got married, and in the last year
Buck
they got a lot worse.
Really picking up on it. He's starting to read between the lines, and he asks like if she's in danger, and she reveals that like Doug threatened to kill her, and like he really meant it. You know what I mean? When she says like she's like she left him, like she's on the run, because if he catches her, it's like it's gonna be really, really bad for her.
Yeah, she has some good lines, I think, about just like the realities of domestic violence, where like she's like she I don't know that she says she was a nurse, but she mentions working at the hospital in this episode, where she's like, when women used to come into the hospital with like injuries from domestic violence, I used to judge them a little bit because I would think like, why wouldn't they just leave? But I get it now. Like, you almost can't believe that it's happening to you at all. And
it was a real till it happens to you moment. You know what I mean? And that was honestly like a really good thing to depict. They're depicting like sort of like the emotional reality of coming to terms with your own abuse. You know what I mean? Which is, I think kind of under depicted in a lot of media.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And I think we'll like get, as you get more context for it over this season and also like the ensuing seasons, you get to see more of kind of like she got into this relationship really young, and there are just a lot of things that kind of make sense for how you would get into this dynamic that then it's really difficult to break free of. But Buck is kind of like, do you have to go on the run? Like, you could just stay here. She says, because she confirms, she's like, Doug never really asked any questions, so he doesn't know like where you live. He doesn't know what you do. So Buck's like, I could maybe, he says like, I know a bunch of cops, like if he ever comes here, like there's some security, and also, I could probably get you a job at a local hospital or help you look for that. She says, I can't deal with that every day, and like I'd be worried all the time about who's gonna walk in the door. So Buck has this great line where he's like, well, so you want to help people but not deal with them face to face, which it's like a Marvel movie or something. It's like,
it is,
it's like, so what you're telling me is you want to do something that's the premise of the show.
It's like, we do have this void on the show where one of like the three main archetypes is not being filled because the actress left. Who could sub in for that? I wonder who it could be.
So we get Jennifer Love Hewitt voiceover for the end of the episode.
Yeah, she really, they're really setting her up as the new Connie, first of all, like right away.
She's the new Abby. Aretha Franklin's Rock Steady begins to play. We see dispatch leader Sue Blevins, dispatch boss Sue Blevins, leading sort of an orientation of new prospective employees at the dispatch, and including Maddie. So Maddie is officially in training to become a 911 dispatcher. She's giving some voiceover about how sometimes the things that trap us are actually the things that will whatever, because she has some line like, sometimes the pressure is the thing we need to like get us to start moving or something.
And I feel like maybe that is like a little bit more emotionally resonant than sometimes the things that make us feel trapped, because it's like, it has like the parallel too with like we all hear that like thing about like how diamonds are made like under extreme pressure and stuff like
or how some people thrive under pressure.
Yeah, it's more of like a common ish
it's a more
analogy.
Normal thing to say.
Yeah, so it just hits the ear better. And it really sort of sets up Maddie's arc, you know what I mean? I feel like Maddie had like 3 scenes in this episode and instantly established herself as like one of like the strongest and most interesting characters on the show.
Yeah, she's really surprisingly actually not in the episode a ton, but I think we get a lot of her in the next couple episodes. So speaking of which, we get a bit of a literal cliffhanger at the end of this episode. Athena is driving on like a freeway overpass. Suddenly a huge earthquake hits. Again, Rock Steady by Aretha Franklin is hitting or is playing as the earthquake hits. And literally like the overpass like crumbles right in front of Athena, like in front of where she's driving. She gets out of the car, and I couldn't help but notice she gets out of the car and of course is now standing literally on the edge of a cliff with our cliffhanger. And that's where we leave the episode.
What a great place to leave your season premiere. Because, like, this is, like, the start of, like, the 3-part season premiere event.
That's what I was going to say.
Thing.
This is, like, the first occurrence of the big opening of season disaster.
And they really hit it out of the park right away, in my opinion. The earthquake is, like, I feel like, I would argue, like, other than the tsunami, of course, I think this is probably the most iconic season premiere event in the show. You know, and I think for good reason.
Like, it's a very, like, California type of natural disaster, so it also feels maybe a little more natural to the setting than, for instance, a B-NATO. Although, like you will not catch me hating on the B-NATO, but I'm just saying,
ever.
Like, in terms of believability.
Do not speak on the B-NATO. Do not speak ill on the B-NATO.
I would never, but in terms of believability, it's maybe a little more true to life to have like an earthquake.
I remember when this season was coming out, it was what was fresh in my mind was the Rock movie San Andreas about the giant like disaster like fault line movie. And I think that came out in like 2017, 2018. And so like when I saw they were doing this, I'm like, okay, yeah. Keep feeding me. Keep it coming. Keep the earthquake content coming.
Anyway, thanks for joining us on this this season opener.
Yes.
So exciting. Sorry we talked about Buddie so much, but also you're welcome.
You're welcome, and also if you complain about it, good luck, babe. Like
I mean, yeah.
We told you who we were from episode 1.
And when someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Believe them the first time.
Yeah, this is going to be no doubt the first of many Buddie heavy episodes. We will. I mean, to be fair, this is a very Buddie heavy episode. Like we wouldn't normally. I think most episodes aren't going to be quite this Buddie heavy, but like it was hard to avoid. In the discussion of this episode.
Yeah, definitely.
And so in terms of future, we're considering having some guests on the podcast.
Yes, we are. So stay tuned for that. We have been in communication with some interested parties.
Some interested gay internet micro celebrities.
Yes. Speaking of Buddie.
Speaking of Buddie, damn. So this will be a fun season.
But yes, thank you for listening. Next episode, earthquake time, baby. New Yorkers, this will be fresh in your memory. Thank you for listening. We love you all very much, and thank you for going on this journey with us. Here is to a great, however, rest of many seasons there are of 911 before it inevitably gets canceled or ends.
Right.
Love you guys. Peace out. And stay standing Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Stay standing Jennifer Love Hewitt and stream Jennifer Love Hewitt's Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Or is it a Lifetime movie? Whatever. Her Christmas movie. And just be careful when a new hot coworker starts working at your job because you never know what it's going to awaken in you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.